I'm Rob Chaffee, and this is Comedy Reset, a live stream where comedy creators and industry insiders talk honestly about their careers, creative process, failures, fears, and what it's like to be in the game. And no, you're probably not having a stroke right now. I can't say for sure, but if I look all frozen and spotty and itchy, that, that's on me. But be assured it will be resolved shortly. Maybe not what you're seeing of my beautiful visage, but the other panelists who I will be introducing shortly. You'll get to see them all. Probably in 30 frames per second, at least 20. So hang in there. So this is what we call a kind of a panel discussion. And we talk about things related to comedy, as I didn't mention in my intro. And every day we have a different topic. We're here 4 days a week, Mondays through Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's New York time for those people who are around the globe. Every Monday through Thursday, please come in, watch, ask us your questions. That's why we're here. I want you to start typing now as I disclose today's topic. Here it is. How do you handle hecklers? Huh? Mostly for comedians, but there's probably a lot of people that just get heckled in real life all the time. We'll take your questions too. Don't feel shy. I know we've got a whole bunch of you watching, so I'm looking to see. I'm not going to do anything. No, that's not true. I got to get my face off this screen. There we go. No, nothing's working. Nothing's working.
Woo!
Panel, can you hear me?
Just
Yeah,
like a
clearly.
typical day. Yeah.
There we go. There it is.
Yes.
Yay.
Hallelujah.
Look at all those that old movement. Look, it's like almost real.
Wow.
All right, so let's meet our panel today. Kavita Singh is a stand-up comedian and writer who has performed in Boston and New York City. She currently lives, somewhat reluctantly, on Long Island, New York. DC is a Chicago-based comedian with humor inspired by his unique perspective, having lived as a Black Canadian/U.S. expat in Southeast Asia. He has successfully woven his life experience in relationships, parenting, and working as a chiropractic physician into a twisted yet relatable brand of funny.
Wow.
Tim Thomson, irreverent, hilarious, silly, unpredictable, clothed.
Vaccinated.
These are all words that have been used to describe Tim Thomson. For the better part of a decade, Tim has been entertaining audiences with his stand-up across America. He takes the crowd on a hilariously bizarre trip through his nonsensical stories about drunk dogs, pop culture, and struggling to understand the ladies. A lifelong New Yorker, Tim draws his humor from his Irish Catholic upbringing, his crippling addiction to TV, movies, and video games, and his inability to tell the difference between reality and make-believe. He currently calls Northport, New York.
Why are you still talking?
Oh my God!
HD.
Ellen Karis is the Greek goddess of comedy.
Hang on, I haven't had an eye job yet. Let's just do that.
Having performed stand-up comedy all over North America alongside such notable comedians as Drew Carey, Jimmy J.J. Walker, and Sebastian Maniscalco.
Squawk.
The entertainment industry has hailed her as the little dynamo, given her petite stature, strong improv skills, and ability to build a quick rapport with any audience. Born and raised in New York City in a traditional, strict Greek home, her brand of sarcastic observational humor has been described along the same lines as comedy legends Joan Rivers and Richard Lewis. Her jokes about her marriage and family, trying to make it in show business against all odds, addiction to sweets, and the absurdities of the ever-changing pop culture, youth-obsessed world we live in are relatable to any crowd. Ellen lives on the island of Manhattan.
What?
A panel. What a panel.
Oh my gosh. And
What
look at
a
me
panel.
now.
You
Oh
look-
God, this is great. I don't even have the cool earbuds. I got these fakaka things on. So
The most diverse panel yet. Well done, Rob.
All right, thank you.
Yes. Oh my God, we look like a college pamphlet, guys.
Did it, Rob.
Thank you.
you do.
Thank you.
All right. You know,
Only took me 8 episodes. Yeah. So
school.
I don't really get heckled. I'm one of these nice guys, you know. Everyone likes me, and everyone wants to bring me home to meet their mom. It's crazy. I'm not a really offensive comic. I work very clean, and I host my bread and butter is hosting because, you know, I'm the pickle. Nobody walks away from the diner and says that was a great pickle. There's usually the sandwich. I just get things going, you know. That's what I basically am. But I have had some experience. I've done some rough shows. I remember doing a bar show once, and there was this really, really drunk guy, and he came. You wouldn't shut up, and each comic kept going up, and he kept saying things, some of them nonsensical. You know, he was really loaded, and I don't know what I said to him, but I remember him coming. He got up out of his chair, and we were working on the floor, so there was no stage, you know. And this is like a dive. This is like a biker kind of. Bikers don't even go to this kind of place. It's really just like a dive bar. And the guy walks over. He comes within 2 inches of my face, right? And he goes, "Where's the bathroom?" And I'm like, "Okay." So that's like my big heckler story. The guy, that was the worst thing that happened to me. But I have worked with a lot of comics that are very, very, very good at dealing with hecklers. Now, I just saw Dice Clay a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago, before the COVID thing, right? And he had some woman, you know, usually she's sitting in the second row and she's drunk, you know. And Clay says, Clay keeps telling her, "Listen, lady, I can have you thrown out in a second." But he didn't. He kept going. Kept going and toyed with the woman and really used it to his advantage. And then I've seen Robert Klein, another great comedian, have almost the same issue, and it was like he gave them 3 chances and he had them ejected. But here's my point here's my basic simple, if you're a new comic and you're concerned about hecklers, what you need to do is, first and foremost, ignore them. Most of the time, if you ignore them, they'll stop. Not always, but that's my base. Because everyone's so worried about hecklers. I mean, it doesn't really happen all that much, except to maybe Tim. People like him. But Kavita, I mean,
common target, you know.
I can't imagine anyone heckling you. Have you had any experiences like that?
People definitely do want to heckle me, but like because I'm a brown woman on stage, they don't want to be mean, right? So they would say something if I were white, but because I'm a unicorn, they're like, "Oh, okay, I gotta like give her some, appreciation, some patience."
So are you having people fill out questionnaires after the show? This is how you're getting your data?
Yeah.
How do you know that?
I send out a survey and I'm like, on a scale of 1 to 5, how badly did you want to heckle me? And I just keep getting back 7s. No, so I've actually been heckled once, but it was by another comic. And okay, I don't know if this is actually heckling, like someone constantly interrupting me, versus one time I was performing a set and I like made a comment and then they interrupted me. So context, I was at this bar in Boston, right? And I'm performing in front of like all comics. It's like 11:30 like p.m. I'm like getting tired, whatever. And I'm bombing, like straight ass bombing, because it turns out you shouldn't really complain about like white people and cultural appropriation in front of the most like white Boston people out there. And so I'm bombing and I go like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I don't know if I should do this. And then this comic from the corner of the room screams, then don't.
Okay.
And I died. I was like, oh no. But I ignored him. And then I kept on with my set. But like the whole time in the back of my mind with the set, like during the set, I was thinking like, what would the perfect insult be? You know, like I just imagine myself like hitting him with my car,
right?
In like different scenarios. I didn't do anything. Like
with the car.
You know, like I wish I was that person who was like clever enough to say something witty back, but then I feel like that just like deters from the focus of the set, anyways.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. You know, that's well, I'm immediately thinking of Costanza, right? Where he goes, he doesn't know what to say.
Michael Richards. Michael Richards.
No. Michael Richards. No. The one. The
Michael
episode.
Richards did.
No, we don't even talk about him.
Oh, I thought when you said Steinfeld.
No, with George Costanza's.
Sorry, I interrupted. Sorry.
The jerk store cold.
Oh yeah, right, that was just on.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Sorry.
For the viewers who might be confused by what Tim Thompson's doing, I'm actually trying to give him some material to work with. DC.
Yes.
Chicago's, you know, it's a rough place. Can be rough for the comedians, man. Do you ever get heckled?
You know what? No, but not since I've been here. But heckling, depending on if you're an MC versus, regular or middle or a headliner, different because no one heckles by themselves. Like whoever's in the audience is always with somebody. No one has the balls just to, from what I've seen, just to go off on a tangent on their own. It's always with a friend or somebody. So I've never really been heckled. I just kind of dismiss it of, hey, you're probably racist. I don't know.
Probably
punching down. But but I don't think they're coming in from a mean place. But on top of heckling, I've been booed off stage though. That's
no. Is that considered heckling? I feel like it's violent verbal assault.
I felt verbally raped. This is actually back when I first started. So. And I think a year and a half into it, and I was like, wow, how do I recover from this? So, but I got some good advice. So heckle is easier than handling that. But yeah, I think that when people heckle, especially in Southeast Asia, I think they're just trying to add and trying to help. They're trying to be part of the show, and they don't realize that they're actually like deterring from it. So like one or two heckles as an MC I'm okay with, and then afterwards I say, listen, this is not happening. But not during a regular show.
I feel like most people are probably like that, right? Like I feel like hecklers, maybe they come in two categories. There's the ones who just like want to be assholes and don't want you to succeed. And then there are people who just really like attention.
Most people are that.
They're thinking that they're having a good time with their friends and like giving you more content, but they don't know how hard it was for you to get on stage and like remember all of your material in the first place.
I remember this one person, he called me. This is back in Southeast Asia in Singapore. Wrong room, nothing but old Asian people. I should not have been there, but the heckle, he just called me Obama. Just because maybe that's the only black person you could think of that I resembled. So that was pretty easy to handle. Just kind of dismissed it off as dementia.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent point. There's that category of audience member that feels like they want to be part of the show. They think they're adding to the show. And, the easiest way to deal with that, and I do get that occasionally when I'm hosting, you'll get somebody, you really want to, when you're hosting, the first thing you want to do is shut all the noise down, right? That includes conversations between people and conversations they might be having with you. And I usually I'll just say, yes, I heard what you said, and then move on. Let them know they were heard, and then just move on from that. But I remember heckling somebody. We're talking about comedians heckling comedians. This comedian Darren Dillon that I used to work with, right? And I remember this is before I was even in comedy. I was sitting in the front row, and he asked me, "Sir, where are you from? What do you do?" And I go, "I work for Newsday." And Newsday's the new local paper here on Long Island, and he got all excited, he goes like I thought I was writing a review of the show, And I said, yeah, I'm writing a review. You really? You write for the entertainment? No, I write for the obituaries. Now, I thought that was hysterical, right?
Aww.
But the guy, 15 years later, still hates my guts. Speaking of people who hate my guts, Tim.
Oh, I don't hate your guts. You're the best ventriloquist I know.
You have any points of view on this subject?
Well, what Kavita said, there are many different categories of hecklers. They are the ones I think they're helping. They're just the complete drunks who I don't even know if they know they're yelling out.
Right.
The ones that just don't like you. I'm trying to think if you want a specific story. Early on doing comedy, I was at Brokerage. If you remember, Brokerage, it used to be owned by Gary Smith, and I would hang out there, and he put me up before Dom Herrera. And before he puts me out there, like, hey, there's a bachelorette party out there. Don't say anything to them. Don't. I'm like, okay. And they would not show. I don't know why bachelorette parties love to go to comedy shows. Don't get it. Maybe they think we'll strip. I'm not sure. But they would not stop. And I'm trying to concentrate. I'm very new at comedy, trying to do my act.
Yeah.
And I want to say something to these women. And I'm also looking through the window, and I see a drunk Dom Herrera trying to put my jacket on at the bar. And my car keys are in the pocket. And he's like, hey, you're trying to put it on. I'm trying to control the women over here. I'm trying to remember my stupid fart penis, whatever comedy when you first start. But when it comes to what I do with hecklers, it depends on how they heckle. Sometimes I will ignore it. I ask them if they're stroking out, or if they understand if I'm not everyone loves Raymond. You're not screaming at the TV. I could hear you.
Yeah.
Or I just agree with them. Sometimes if they're violent, I'm like, I'll go with whatever they're saying. Like, yeah, and then or I just make them like, listen, we talked about making out in the parking lot. They say that to usually giant guys or with their girlfriend. Like, we had an agreement that we would do this outside in the parking lot.
Sometimes I feel like there are like these little quips that comics have that just like if they just kill heckling. Like,
it's good to have an arsenal. It's good to have some stock stuff that is your own, not the dick out of your mouth. Make your own stuff.
Well, it's not even like it's not even a story. It's like this one liner. Like I heckled this. Well, I don't know if it was heckling, but this dude said something like fucking racist about like. Well, no, I mean it was about like Indian dudes working in call centers and like wearing turbans, and I screamed, I'm like, that's not true. And this guy. He said something back, right? This was in an open mic in Boston. He said something back, and I'm like, all right, racist. And he goes like, I have the mic, honey. Let's see who's louder. And then I was like, fuck, like he's right. Like he does have the mic. So I shut the fuck up.
That's a stock. That's a stock answer.
But there's something smart.
Something smart. Ellen.
Yes. Yes, I'm here.
We've worked on a few gigs together.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have.
You are one of the most likable comics that I've ever seen, actually, and you're such a charmer, and you're so cute. Nobody ever really wants to say anything nasty to you, right?
So, my perspective is, it really just depends on the comic. So. For all of my years in comedy, I don't have a lot of heckling experience at all. The one that sticks out in my mind is probably, so I'm doing this like 20 years, so probably at this, I don't know, the 7-year mark or something. I was up in like the Binghamton area, and it was it was actually a couple that were these bookers, and anyway, so they were there, which was weird because they live in Florida. But anyway, so they were there, and I went up, and it was like a big stage. It was a bar,
Yeah.
And there was a group right in front of me, and I would say I was featuring. So, I was about, I don't know, 7 minutes into it or something. And the girl, I said something about being from New York City. And one of the girls screams out, "I'm going to kick your ass."
Wow.
Jesus.
And I was, so my perspective is that it is not my responsibility to address it, because that is what the bouncers are there for. And it was like a big bar. There was, plenty of staff, but the bookers were there. He did make an announcement about, conversations and all that. He was sitting there. He should have went over. And the fact that he did nothing was disgusting.
Yeah.
So, and my feeling is, again, and this is just me, and I've seen comics where they get heckled and then they go after them, and then it becomes part of the act and all this other kind of stuff. And there are comics that are brilliant at it.
Yeah.
I don't have any interest in it. And I also feel very conscientious about giving a good show. And I didn't come there to argue, and I didn't come there to waste people's time, money, all of that goes with it, so I can sit and talk or yell or have a stupid conversation or argument, I should say, for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long it's going to last, with somebody that normally is inebriated. So I'm really very, and I was like that from like the very beginning. I'm very hardcore about that.
Yeah.
So that was probably the most severe. And I totally ignored her. I just kept going on. But when I got off stage, I said to the two bookers, "Hey, where were you? You're sitting here. Did you hear that?" So I was pissed. I was super, super pissed. I don't know what's going on here with the miming, but
I was trying to get Tim's attention for something. So you bring up an interesting point, and I think this is important. You are, to be a professional, you're hired for a job. You're there to do something that is 30, 40, 50, 100, 200 people have paid money to see. And that one or two people who might cause problems, the rest of the audience is bothered by them as much as you are.
It's very disrespectful, and quite frankly, if I want to argue with somebody, I can call somebody in my family. That's easy.
Right.
So I don't need, to get into a whole thing with a stranger. And there is that other side of the equation or the other type of heckler category of the person that is just getting involved, and they think they're funny and they're helping you and all this other and whatever. And I kind of treat, honestly, really the same way. That one I might address for like a second, just to kind of calm them down, and most of the time that works, but to continue to feed the trough, even if their intention isn't mean, is not again the way that I roll. Everybody can do their own thing.
But here's the thing, though. I mean, doesn't the MC set the tone? And Ellen, by the time you're headlining, right? It's surprising that actually there's still a heckler at that time. This is after 2 or 3 people.
They've drank more. They become more emboldened. I mean, it all depends.
I feel like
I was gonna say absinthe ain't no joke, man. I'm saying it's just inhibition.
What bars are you going to do?
Right. So what I just want to mention to the audience that I know there's some people out there watching, at least two of you. Please write your questions and comments down. You don't get a chance to talk to caliber of comedians like this about such an interesting subject. Just ask. Just say something. Am I still frozen? I made a face, Ellen. It wasn't at you.
Let it go.
I was trying to help.
I have
is what it is.
Thoughts to
What is it?
No, I was being.
All right. Okay. Well, in any event,
I really think it also depends on the venue. If you're doing theater or a large show, you should go forward with your act. Like, people are paid to see what you've honed and written and been perfecting. If you're at a bar show and you're down in the muck with these people, you have to interact. It's kind of almost, it's a challenge. Like, if you don't interact, it seems like personally, I feel like, am I less of a comic for not the comic to not comment on what's going on right in front of me? Because we're supposed to address what's going on in the world. And if we can't even address what's going on inside of the room, what exactly is are we worth our salt?
That's a great point. Again, this is just my perspective, but I feel that that doesn't make me less of a comic. No. And if I really wanted to rip them, I know I could, but I choose not to. And again, it just keeps it alive. I don't really think most people come to comedy shows to see that. And yes, there's obviously we've all done very different caliber of shows. Right. I've done, where Greek Orthodox priests are there and all that, to, people just so drunk and talking and eating and their backs to you and all this other kind of stuff. And absolutely. And again, my mantra is, you hired me, you're paying me, I'm going to give you the best show that I possibly can. If they choose not to pay attention or they want to talk through their conversations, that's like a little bit of a form of heckling as well. When people just, the conversations are flowing. So, but I'm just going to keep on going, and it's your loss.
I do kind of
agreed.
I feel like I do especially respect comics who are able to do improv on their environment, who are able to just talk to their environment and interact with it in that sense. So if you could pull it off, then I think that's really well. And I think the audience gets satisfaction when you make fun of a heckler in kind of a superiority kind of way, because that's so much of comedy is just look at this fuckhead McGee just messing up a whole set. This guy is
but coming going at somebody because they're mean spirited, and then you're gonna top them. And again, first of all, you have to be really comfortable in that space to do that. Yeah, that can turn ugly really, really bad. And not to be the I'm a woman kind of thing, because I hate to do that. I'm a comedian, just like the men. But I feel for myself that there is a little bit of a different perspective on that, and that's why I think, I don't know, I don't have the data for this, but I'm assuming that female comedians probably get heckled a little bit less than male comedians, but I might be off on that. I might be off on that, but I don't know. I again, sometimes it turns very ugly, and then the audience is very tense. Even if the comic, I've seen this. I'm not going to say the comic. He's a well-known comic. He's very good. He's very funny. And as a matter of fact, he got so pissed, and then he had him thrown out. And that whole thrown out drama, that's a whole nother level, I think, of uncomfort. So
for sure. Well, the good clubs will have security take them out before you even notice.
Right. Yeah. You don't even
there are great ones that you'll notice. All of a sudden, that table's empty.
That's empty.
So what happened? It's fantastic, but it's almost a challenge, because you don't know what the level, when you go back at them. How hard do I rip them? Because if you rip them too hard, then you can turn the whole audience against you.
Right.
Hey, wait a minute! It's just a guy in the audience.
And on that note, let's take a quick pause for our sponsor break, and then we'll come back. And we don't have any questions yet, and there's 7 people at least watching. So why don't you 7 people start typing?
What?
All right? Because we won't have anything to say after we're exhausted. All right, let me read this, and I'll play a little video. Mentally Al is an intimate portrait of cult comedy legend Al Lubell, a former Star Search champion who's appeared many times on the likes of Carson, Leno, and Letterman. He is now in his 60s, perpetually broke, couch surfing in friends' apartments, and struggling for stage time. A true enigma of the stand-up comedy world, Al is considered by many to be the greatest and most influential comic you've never heard of.
The $100,000 comedy champion is Al Lubell.
My next guest started out actually as a practicing lawyer before going into stand-up comedy. Would you welcome Al Lubell?
Al Lubell.
Al Lubell.
Al Lubell.
Yes, my name is Al Lubell.
Al Lubell.
My name's Al.
Al Lubell. 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 You know what's strange? The more I say my name, the more y'all look at me like, who is this guy?
He's an artist. Before there was a word alternative comedy, there was Al.
Talking about myself is what makes me different from all the other comedians out there today. Because if you notice, they almost never talk about Al Lubell.
Comedians know that Al is crazy funny. And then I think comedians also worry about Al because you could tell he's going down some wormhole in his own mind.
I'm Al Lubell. I'm Al Lubell. I'm Al Lubell, I'm Al Lubell, I'm Al Lubell.
I'm just concerned about how much of me I can be.
Somehow, powers that be didn't pick up on him.
Whether I'm right.
There's comics, and then there's Al Lubell.
My whole life it's been hard to get work as a comedian. And I can really feel that a lot of people like it, and a lot of people do.
He's going to do what he wants to do. And you love him or you don't get it.
His relationship with his mother is bananas.
I don't think he cared enough to be aware.
It's for any comedian, right?
Very famous guy. But please don't bother him. He's in the middle of an interview.
Mentally Al is available on Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, Spectrum, Google Play, YouTube, and many more. Go out and see it today.
If there was anyone who was going to sponsor us, I was expecting it to be some like telehealth, mental health awareness. Like,
they're coming. Don't worry. They're coming. We have the option for all our folks to comment. No one's commenting, but that's okay.
I messaged you when we were off. Like when you click on the thing that you actually posted on Facebook, there's nothing going on there. So but if I look at your page, I can find it. So that's why I asked you to resend it.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
But that's why it's
all right. That's all right. We can fill 10 minutes.
I will say, guys. So, I was trolling TikTok, and this woman. So her name is like Sereni. I think it's like Weera Kasura. She's like this Indian comedian. She was performing in San Francisco. And she said this, she was like, can you guys just like give me content, like say something and then I'll just like riff off of that. And some dude goes, "You suck." And then she goes, "Did someone say you suck?" Like who said that? And then she's like, I will go up there. I will go up on those bleachers and suck your until you like me.
Really?
And and the whole crowd.
That's a strategy.
This was like a real crowd, like a legit crowd. And they started hysterically laughing because it like, she incorporated this joke as like a part of her personality, as like being this like, person seeking external validation on this like douchebag. I just thought that was so funny and like
leaning into the heckle is good.
Exactly.
Isn't that part of the secret? Always something positive. Don't be mean. Like don't be obnoxious to them. Then they're gonna want to say. That's improv. Always answer with a positive.
Yeah.
Yes, and
yes, and
suck. You suck. Yes, and I'm gonna come up there and suck you up, and I'm gonna make you my.
And the other point is you have the microphone, and you're in command, right? So that the guy we just watched the video of the guy Al Lubell. I did a show with Al Lubell once, and I was just astonished at how patient he was. He kept asking questions. What do you do? What is it like doing that? Do you ever have this experience? Do you ever have that experience? And he waited just for the right response to nail it. And really, he was, again, he's another master at that kind of stuff. He could incorporate it. But
that's awesome.
Leaning into it is a big thing, but it's a skill. I mean, it really is a skill. And I've seen guys that they've got. One time I was with, and I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning his name. This guy George Gallo. He's out here on Long Island.
George is brilliant.
George is brilliant, absolutely brilliant, right? But don't mess with George when he's doing his show. So this guy said something. And it was probably innocuous. It probably wasn't mean-spirited at all.
Yeah.
But then George was laser focused on this guy, and I swear it was a big guy, older guy, beard, gruff looking guy, and I swear to God, he got up. He just like this stare at George as he walked out to the door, and he walked out one of the side exit doors, and he was with people. He just left, and we're all thinking he's going out to get a gun. He's coming back, and he's going to shoot George. And George, as the guy's walking out, he's saying things to him. He's mocking him. He's making like a.
Oh no!
It was everything.
Was
But
that funny though?
The audience loved it. The
Oh.
audience
George,
loved it.
he wants to dance.
George is George. But again, I
He
think
was
that
waiting for that moment.
if you're gonna do things like that, you have to be at that level. You have to be really, really confident.
Yeah.
Or else it's not going to look good for you. So
I was at a bar recently, and I was sitting in the audience. This girl's drunk. She's saying stuff, and like the comic, he reacted so poorly because he was almost like negotiating with her. He was like the mom negotiating with the little kid who didn't want to eat broccoli. He was like, "Are we really going to do this? Am I going to have to call security?" And then continues this bit. He's like, "You keep interrupting me," and I'm like, "Oh my fucking God!" Like I spent $10. I'm like, I want my $10.
When you're on stage, you have to be a dictator. You have to be Idi Amin up there. You're a despot. Like you
got to be a fascist.
You have to control everything.
sometimes when there's some chatting, I'll turn around and I'm like, and I have a different approach, and I'm like, "What's the matter, baby? What's the matter? What's happening here?" And then we'll get that, again, this is because I am the person that calms my family down. So, I'm comfortable in that role just to see, what's happening. But it happens, but it happens, but it really, it shouldn't. But what's like a bar show and a club that you can, that you accept, but if it's like more at a formal or a corporate or something else, those are a little bit more like really, why would you behave this way?
Right, and if you're doing a theater, right, you're doing theater space.
Right.
It's almost impossible. Number one, you can't really hear whatever they're saying, right? So if you can,
It's in waves.
yeah, right. Sometimes it's it's really best again to go back to my original advice.
I'm not going to mention the casino. It's a great space, a great theater. But there is a casino that they comp, obviously lots of casinos I'm sure do this, they comp the tickets and people will come in and they might leave in the middle of your show because they didn't pay for the tickets.
Right.
And that's like a whole nother thing. Again, me personally, I don't really address it. And those are like, again, distractions that you have to be able to finagle and maneuver and multitask because you got your whole act that you're trying to do and you've got all these things going on.
We have some comments. I'm going to bring them up.
What?
Take a look at it. Here we go. From Linda DeSantis.
Yeah, I really loud laugh. I'm sorry.
Linda DeSantis says, "I am here."
Damn, Rob, you have
I'm there.
Yo, we got some serious traffic right now.
She also says, this is an interesting one. "I've only been heckled one time. The guy said he couldn't hear me. I repeated a couple of times into the microphone and said, 'Oh, you can't hear me. You can't hear me. You can't hear. Can you hear me now?' And then I continued on with my joke and the part of the joke that it actually worked, and I got a bigger laugh then."
Yeah, she Verizoned him.
She Verizoned him. That's exactly right. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
So the greatest heckle comeback, and Rob, you probably know this, is Bill Burr.
Oh,
yeah.
And you know that. Do you know what I'm talking about in Pennsylvania?
Oh,
so there's
Philly.
Philly.
Yeah,
The
Philly.
bootleg audience. It was technically at Camden, but it was all Philly people.
Okay.
So Opie and Anthony,
The
the radio
baseball
show.
team's named after a female horse. Yeah.
Opie and Anthony was
Rocky
a
27.
radio show out of New York that had a lot of comics on it because the third mic was Jim Norton. So it was a lot of people out of the cellar. So they did a tour. I would say 2009, 2010.
Yeah,
maybe they did a tour like these outside arenas. And
Bill had hair then.
Bill had hair. It doesn't matter. We don't judge about hair, but it happens.
Of course not.
But it was outside, and I don't know about you guys, but outside comedy is rough.
Oh, brutal.
And in an arena, it's something about God being there, and then everyone could do whatever they want. But it was in the giant arena in I think it was PNC Park in Camden, which was all Philadelphia people. And earlier that show, they ripped apart Dom Herrera, who's a comedy icon, who steals jackets. But other than that,
from Philly,
and he's from Philly.
Absolutely,
he's from Philly. But they ripped up. They were drunk and they were being assholes. And Bill Burr went up there and had nothing to do with it. And he, for 40 minutes, ripped apart Philadelphia.
Just ripped
and they're yelling at him, and he kept yelling how much time he had left. At the end, they loved him. He talked about how racist they are. They have a statue to a fictional boxer instead of Walt Frazier, an actual real boxer. You have a statue of how much time? 7 minutes. And they kept cheering, and it was an amazing, thousands of people.
It's on. By the way, it's on YouTube, everybody. So if you want to take,
the audio is not the best because it was recorded out of the sun. But as anyone as a comic or love comedy, you gotta listen to it. Yeah. But he brought back a city. He ripped the city apart.
Wait, what is it? What is it called again?
It's Bill Burr, Philadelphia.
Just type that in. It'll come up.
Yeah,
I wanted to say, I said something but mentioned it before because I thought you were talking about something else, and I just want to kind of say this because it comes up once in a while. Because you were talking about Seinfeld, and I went to Michael Richards because we're talking about heckling, and that was one of the worst stories, heckling stories ever. And my reaction then and still today is Mike, and I'm a huge Seinfeld fan, and Kramer was a genius character and all that, not to take away any of that talent. But my first reaction, which is still is like, why was he on stage? He's Kramer. He's made a boatload of money. He's an improv guy. He's not a stand-up.
He was never a stand-up. Right.
He was I know he was dabbling into it, which, like, again, I get a little annoyed about things like that. It's like, dude, like, how many jobs are you going to take away? Like, please, like, for the love of God, why don't you produce? Why don't you put money behind it? But anyway,
a lot of performers try to do stand-up. They're like comedic performers. Let me try stand-up. We got Screech who did it, or Mick Foley. If you don't know, he's a wrestler.
Yeah, I know he is. Yeah.
He tries because they feel like I'm funny doing what's written.
But Kramer, Michael Richards,
Michael Richards was a comedic actor since the 80s. Like it seems like a natural progression. Like,
I do want to say that I do bear a lot of responsibility onto the club for not cutting that off. His reaction was disgusting. We can all agree, and nothing. And when you watch it, you're like, dude, what are you thinking? I realize we assume what he's thinking, but it's just like, this is a bad, really bad nervous breakdown. But the club and Laugh Factory is a great club. Don't get me wrong. I got to perform there, but they've got security. They should have went.
Well, the issue with that is the club didn't know he would. I doubt the club knew he was going to go there.
But they were there listening.
Did it hurt the club? Did it hurt them? It only hurt Michael Richards. The club got national exposure. I've only performed when there used to be a Laugh Factory in New York, and they were really nice folks and everything. Yeah. But did it hurt Laugh Factory at all, or did it hurt Michael Richards?
But that's not the point. The point is that they allowed him to, they welcomed him on his stage.
I doubt they knew he was going to go there.
No, I know. I agree with that. But I'm saying they welcomed him on a stage because they've got a named person, as opposed to the 27 comics that are busting their butt, to get the stage time.
Yes, no, that's true.
And they went with the celebrity. Okay, fine. But that went on for quite a bit, and they were drunk. And again, I am not defending Michael Richards and what he said at all. It was even for it to watch it is completely uncomfortable. But they were drunk, and somebody should have went there and cut that. That tape, that video should have been a lot shorter. So,
but you know how valuable TV credit is when you're saying he got that spot on the real top. There were people probably 15 years in trying to get up there, like Michael Kramer is here.
Well, that's the bit. What are you going to do about that? I mean, there's always that kind of thing going on.
Why are you so stone-faced about this, Rob?
But this is
and then when he went on, and then later he went on, and Jerry Seinfeld even had him on Letterman.
Yes.
And he tried to do this mea culpa, and it's like, dude, it's out there. Again, he made his money. People
he went
still watch
home
Seinfeld, all that, but that's a hard one to reel back.
Those are the pitfalls of heckling.
Yes, yeah. So we have another comment from Robert Lepakin.
Bob Lepakin.
See how popular I am. I got heckled once by my own bringers.
Oh
Do
my
friends
God.
ever heckle you guys? Well, yeah. I mean, that's.
No, well, they've never heckled, but when we left the show, they weren't able to look me in the eye. So maybe that's the same thing.
Like sex, right, Robert?
Oh yeah, that was a great show. Who was that? Who was that girl? What was her name? Jessica Kirsten? Oh, she was hilarious.
She was hilarious.
She is hilarious. She's one of my favorites. Yeah. Did you see me? Did you see what I was?
She goes back at
she. That's funny that you said. Maybe that's what was in my head. Jess is phenomenal. But with Jess, she still maintains a likability about her on stage as she's ripping somebody. And again, that's a gift in my book. So
it's a fine art. You're right. To rip someone and have people still love you, like Joan Rivers was amazing at it. It's a gift, and it's a really you're walking on the razor's edge when you do that. You could go awful. You could turn the whole room against you. So you got to be careful when you do that.
Yeah.
I never bring my friends to my shows. Like my bringers will never be a friend. It'll be another comic because I know like most of my friends are brown. They're going to rip me to shreds. Like I make a joke. They're going to be like, boo, you suck. I make a joke about my boyfriend. They'll be like, you're single. So like I won't.
Well, just a hint. If you're doing bringers, use Tinder and set up a bunch of fake dates and get the people to come.
Oh my God, dude, that is genius.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
And I absolutely
don't tell anyone a white bald guy told you that.
And they won't follow up with me.
See what kind of tips you get. And we even threw that right from Tim Thompson. All right, so let's take our last comment from the audience, and I do appreciate the audience participating. Phil Sweet, I've only been heckled once, and I didn't handle it well. Ever since then, I've had a pre-planned, multi-level heckle response in my back pocket, but have never needed it. It's got like shock and awe.
Yes,
it's got shock and awe for it.
He created an Excel spreadsheet for how to handle heckle. Your wife must love you in the bedroom.
Pre-planned, multi-level heckle response. He definitely has a spreadsheet.
Oh God.
100%.
Phil's a great guy. He's a former guest. And actually, we'll throw one more.
No offense, that's the whitest response I've ever
heard. We have another.
I want to talk about white, brown, and I thought we were all coming together.
We did all the colors.
So segregated all of
the green.
Now our final comment from this again. We talk a little bit about this. How do you howdy you handle bachelorette parties?
Bachelorette parties.
Bachelorette parties.
That's only when Bette Miller.
Any good stories from the great actor and comedian Alan Enlow, a friend of the show. So,
they're always. I think you alluded to it before, Tim. That they always come drunk. The bachelorettes. First of all, you know them because they've got feathers and boas and straws that are phallic and the whole thing. They come with accoutrements. They come with accoutrements, and you know it's them. And some are, a little bit, not all of them, but some are better than others. But they come very, very lit. They chat. You just know it. Like, you're like, okay, they're there, and this is it. And as long as nobody throws up on the table, which hasn't been known to happen, it's a good night.
It's incorporated. Like, there's nothing you can do. You're not going to do your set tonight, so just play with them, friendly. Don't hurt anyone. Don't rip on Beth. Don't do anything bad. It's just this giant Rottweiler that just came into the living room. You're like, hey, what's going on? You're just going to be calm with them and entertain them. And
I do ask questions.
Well.
If it's warranted, I will ask questions of the bride. What does he do? Let me see your ring. I get into the girl. I get into a girly mode with them. You know what I mean? He's a plumber. Wow, good for you. It's just cash. That kind of stuff.
Help with your clogs, right?
Okay. I've seen like bachelorettes at strip clubs. They're lethal. They really. There's no limits.
Yeah, that's after they came from a comedy club. Then they go to the strip club. Reverse it. Go to the strip club, then the comedy club.
Right. Get it out of your system.
Right.
Get it out of your
And
system.
on that note,
the club doesn't kill anyone. The strip club definitely will.
Yeah. On that note, I want to thank all of our participants, all the people who have been watching.
Thank you, Rob, live from Prodigy.
Thank you so much.
I don't know how to do this. All right. Well,
I'm going in the pool. See you later, folks.
Hang on.
Hang
on. I got to do my outro. And
okay, good.
Sure it all goes. Don't leave yet.
Beautiful.
I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support the show, please share it with others. Post about it on social media.
Even on Instagram.
Or leave a rating and review to catch all the latest from us. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Comedy Reset. One word, Comedy Reset. Thanks again. And we'll see you tomorrow.